one. Well, good morning, everyone. The time is 9:18 on Saturday, February 23rd, and we have a special guest, Heidi Loeppky, joining us all the way from beautiful India. Hello there, Heidi. How are you?
Hey, Leroy. I'm doing well.
Awesome. So Heidi has a couple of events that are coming up in March, and we thought we'd check in with her and see what's going on in India. And she'll be arriving in Toronto at the end of March. So yeah, later on in the interview, we're going to be talking a little bit about those events. But for those of you who don't know Heidi, I thought I'd give her a chance to talk a little bit about herself and her journey on the path of Tantra, let's say.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, thanks for organizing this and hosting me in your community.
You're very welcome.
It's always good to talk to you. And yeah, it's always it's such a big question in this path of Tantra. But I remember actually when I was growing up, I had this obsession with truth. And I had this little poem beside my bed that I would read every morning about seeking truth. And so I think like many people, I sort of had inklings of my own personal truth before I learned from the textbook and before I took the workshop. And for me, Tantra has always felt like my own personal truth. There are many truths out there, but it always rang so true. And I remember being in university, I actually was studying to be an accountant, which I was a chartered accountant.
I somehow cannot picture that. Maybe if you wore glasses, if there were glasses, maybe I could see that.
Well, I was not, I was the eccentric one, let's just say that. I was always what's the expression, the square peg in the round hole?
Yes. Let me just quickly say hello to, let me just say good morning to a couple of people who have joined us. Good morning, Benoit, Michael, and Simon. Thanks for joining us. Do any of you know Heidi by any chance? Or if you've been to one of her events in Toronto, drop me a comment. That would be cool to know if you have. Sorry, go ahead,
Hi,
Danny.
everyone. Coming. Yeah. Oh, thanks for being here. So this bachelor's program, when I was going through that stage, I had to write a bunch of essays, and there were these stuffy old English poems that the professor had seen, the very similar response over and over. And when I read them, it felt very clear that they were talking about immortality through sexuality and alchemy and the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and they didn't know where this stuff was coming from. And for some reason, I've just always seen things from that lens, which I later learned when I took my first workshop that this is very tantric.
Wow, so this was before you knew anything about Tantra?
Before I knew anything about Tantra.
But were you...
It was just like moving out of my pores.
But were you on kind of a spiritual path? Like, did you read books on spirituality and that kind of thing?
This is before.
Right.
Before all of that. So,
oh, wow.
I've always been looking for that truth.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I would say, that was like right on the brink. And I would say about 4 years after that, I pivoted and I became really thirsty for any kind of spiritual knowledge, any kind of spiritual community.
Wow.
I began traveling extensively.
Right.
And I had this amazing experience of taking my first actual Tantra workshop and feeling like, whoa, like there's books about this, there's classes about this, there's a tradition about this. And it just felt, I describe it like the feeling of a Rubik's Cube, and all the cubes, all the sides are just clicking into perfect place.
Nice.
Perfect alignment.
Nice.
And it was the most delicious feeling, really, to realize that I wasn't just a weirdo, that this was actually a thing.
So were you familiar at all with like Hinduism or Buddhism at the time? Like even superficially?
No.
Wow, that's amazing.
No, it just, I find it a lot actually. I have people coming to my classes, and sometimes I can tell right away they know this. They know all of this.
Yeah.
They've never taken up a shop.
Yeah.
They know it inside their bones. They know it inside their soul. And it's not really something that I'm teaching people. It's more something that I'm creating the space for people to remember. Because we have this, we are just naturally tantric beings, I believe. And especially if this is your path, because there are many paths. And I see everything from a tantric lens. I think everything is tantra. But if you're resonating with that path and you're in my workshop, there's a good chance you already know this. You just need the space to discover it.
So we've actually been using the word tantra quite a bit. This is probably a difficult thing to kind of summarize, but can you give kind of like a brief definition of tantra? Like the meaning of life, maybe, if you want to throw that in.
Yeah, I would require like 10 lifetimes to actually explain what Tantra is. And I still don't even know. I've been studying it extensively for years.
Right.
And it's such a big well. That's the beauty of Tantra, is that we're very familiar with it, some of us in the West, as this sort of maybe sexually related theme. Something about Tantra, our ears perk up. Ooh, what's that? Is it the Kama Sutra? No? Am I going to have better sex? And that's certainly something that can be taught and learned and can be called Tantra. But really, it's a very, very deep well. And the word Tantra actually came from these ancient scriptures that were written in India. There were hundreds, even maybe thousands of scriptures called tantras. And it was a philosophy, it was even you could say a religion, but so very alive. It's a very alive form of philosophy.
So I know I'm still learning a little bit about Tantra as well, but I did look up a little bit about it. So I know that it has its origins in Hinduism, but it also kind of influenced Buddhism as well. So there's kind of like Buddhist Tantra and Hindu Tantra. Is that right?
Yeah, all of the lines kind of blur. We're not clear exactly what started where.
Right.
But some scholars say that Tantra was really the thing that started yoga and that branched over into Buddhism.
Right,
but
right.
They each have their own, within Tantra, there's types of Buddhism that are more like Tantra than they are like Buddhism.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's well, but to summarize the essence, if you want to live a tantric life, it's really about integration, and it's about uniting polarities. Because we see a lot of polarities in our world. Every day we've got the daytime and the nighttime. We've got our things that feel good, our pleasure and our pain. And in sexuality, we have oftentimes our masculine and feminine energies are dancing. And by the way, every human has both masculine and feminine.
Yes, this is a very, very current discussion that I've been having, talking about masculine qualities and feminine qualities. And then, having people say, well, why is that a masculine quality? Like, I experienced that. And, I think superficially people get kind of tense because they think that this is like maybe outdated sexist beliefs, that don't see men and women as equal. But I feel like it's so missing the point. And I think workshops like you'll be presenting will help people see how rich it is when you can see the world in, those kinds of opposites, I guess, but how they are integrated.
And one way that I like to, sorry to interrupt, but this might be interesting to people, because masculine and feminine are just a label. They have no meaning. And just throw those away. Forget it. Because they've now been intertwined with male, female, and it's gotten confusing. So think of it like in a more neutral way, like our left brain and right brain. So every single one of us has both left brain function, which has a very distinct, unique purpose, and right brain function, which also has a distinct, unique purpose. Some of us rely on one more than the other. And those of us who've found a way to use both and to flow back and forth are the ones who are really enjoying life more and often are the more successful of us in the world. And it's exactly like that with the masculine feminine energy. So there's just two different functions, two different strengths that they have. And we're lucky enough to have both, regardless of our gender or sexual orientation. So we need to start thinking about masculine and feminine as a much more fundamental. That right now we're looking at them as these superficial labels, but they're actually just the building blocks of what make us up.
So I've been really interested in Jordan Peterson, and I think we had a brief conversation about our common interest there. And one of the things that he emphasizes is that based on the fact of our evolution, we see the world as essentially male and female, masculine and feminine. So, our first experience is typically with our mother, and that builds a very strong archetype for the way we see kind of the rest of the world. And typically the next kind of entity we have some kind of contact with is our father. And it's usually very different from the experience that we have with our mother. So the first two experiences that we have kind of set the tone now for how we see kind of the rest of the world. So, in our dreams, we dream typically about characters, and those characters will either be male or female, or, if we're having some kind of integration that needs to have, maybe there'll be like kind of an ambiguous figure. But yeah, I think what you're saying is that foundation is kind of primary.
And the world would be a lot more boring if we were all the same.
Exactly.
It's funny, there's actually a reason I think that sexuality has come to the forefront in Tantra, because it's speaking to a very deep pattern. If you this is going one layer deeper, so I'm not getting too philosophical here, but I've been thinking about this lately, and it's fascinating. So sexuality is the way that we can most access the uniting of polarities. That these two opposite people that are coming together, they've got a chemistry, so there's some kind of polarity happening between two people. They're coming together and making love. And this is how we access polarity in a very strong way in our lives. And Tantra, in the classical sense, is very much about the polarity of movement and stillness. So in mythology, it's called Shiva and Shakti. And I've switched them because Shiva relates to stillness and Shakti relates to movement.
Right.
And all the patterns of polarities in our life are a play of Shiva and Shakti. You can think of all of life as a lovemaking of stillness and movement. And that's what mindfulness is, actually. It's bringing that stillness of our consciousness to the movement of our actions. And so one way to describe Tantra, just to circle back in a very concise way, is a very loosey, sexy kind of mindfulness.
Right.
That's a way that about Tantra. We're bringing so much consciousness to all of our actions and all of our energy and playing out this pattern. It's like a pattern of lovemaking, but happening moment by moment. When you notice the wind on your skin and you really feel it as the kiss of the divine. That's a moment of lovemaking within yourself. That's Tantra.
So one kind of description that kind of just came back to me, I don't know how accurate it is, but I felt like the description was, so traditional Buddhism seems to have its emphasis on getting out of the cycle of rebirth and kind of transcending like this kind of reality. But in my belief system, we wanted this experience. So the idea is not to transcend it, it's to really experience all of it, like the good, the bad, the boring, the exciting, the pain, like all of it, and to really find appreciation for all of it. Does that
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad, because there are these two, again, polarities.
Yeah.
So you look at some of the classical religions, philosophies, they're very transcendent.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go out. They're the Shiva-oriented, consciousness-oriented religions.
Right. And Shiva is the male incarnation, right?
You can say that.
Or the masculine, feminine. I'm getting my terms mixed up. Yeah.
There's a lot of semantics, but it's helpful to think of us, like you mentioned, our mother and father create such a big imprint on us that it's a way that we can interact with life. We understand those archetypes. And that's one reason why I believe Tantra uses the masculine and feminine archetypes, because we know how to connect to those. We know how to understand them. They bring this very, very abstract, esoteric thing down and to a place that we say, oh yeah, I know what that feels like. And so more than anything, it's just terminology to help us grasp this very abstract thing that is difficult to comprehend. So this energy of consciousness, which is stillness, is what we're looking for in paths of Buddhism, looking to find the void, looking to transcend manifestation, transcend this world. So that's one polarity. Then we have, us in our very busy rush lives, doing, a job and a family and sports and all this, and we have no time for space and stillness. There's very little consciousness in that life. It's just energy. It's just movement. And the two poles that we see, a lot of us, if we haven't discovered Tantra, see those as the two options. But Tantra says we want to unite polarities. So we want to bring this transcendent into this manifest world, into this 3 dimensions, into our busy life, into all the stresses, bring these together. And that's the love making, when these two can coexist at the same time.
Amazing. Well, like you said, we could spend hours, years trying to define Tantra.
Truly. I feel like I'm, I feel irresponsible actually for putting it into such a small, short window.
Well, we can say I forced you, so. So you're in India right now, which I'm rather envious of because I've never been, and it's part of my heritage, but we'll skip over that for right now. So how long have you been?
Another Facebook Live about that.
I'm sorry? Yeah, we'll do another Facebook Live about that. So how long have you been in India?
I've been here about a month now. And it's funny because one reason why I come here is to help unite those polarities in myself, because in Canada, in the West, we have this way of thinking, and it's this very, very logical, goal-oriented action way of thinking. And in India, there's just a different way of thinking. It almost breaks my accountant brain when I come here. There isn't little boxes that neatly contain everything. You can't classify and summarize things here.
Right.
And so I feel like I come here to get my brain continuously broken.
And how many
coming together of these two worlds.
And how many times have you been?
This will be my 4th time.
Wow, so amazing.
I've spent almost 2 years actually cumulatively in India now.
And do you spend time at with teachers, or are you more like just kind of traveling around, or?
I like to do a balance. So on this trip, I stayed at a beautiful temple. They have an education program in a temple, and it's from a classical lineage called Sri Vidya. So it's in the south of India, dedicated to goddess worship.
Wow.
And it's beautiful. It's breathtaking. And like I said, there's so many paths of Tantra, and this is just one. So it's beautiful to be immersed in that very traditional experience. And now I'm here in Goa, in Arambal, which is much less traditional. And there's really, it's kind of a hippie place, actually. So I've been doing a lot of personal practice, a lot of reading. And, for me, because I am very, I want to share this as much as I can in the West, but sometimes I get caught up as well in the administration of it. And to be swimming in the ocean every day, I'm so blessed I've been swimming in the ocean every day and just coming back to the essence of what it is that I want to share with people, bringing that sexy mindfulness where I'm in the ocean and I'm feeling the whole ocean is caressing every part of my body. This is an ecstatic experience.
It's amazing.
So that's where I'm at right now.
Awesome.
And,
so you are planning a return to Canada. And you're going to be visiting Toronto towards the end of March, and you've got a couple of amazing events that I'm going to be helping out with. So do you want to talk a little bit? Yeah. So on the 29th, Heidi's doing, how many times have you done this now? I helped you out in 2017. Yeah,
well, I've been hosting them since 2014, so almost 5 years now.
Wow.
I've done them around all over Canada, a couple places in the US, and it'll be my second time in Toronto.
That's amazing.
I'm super excited to bring it back because it's just so fun.
Yeah, and there is a huge, desperate need for new ways of bringing single people to, well, at least for the tantric speed dating, to bring singles together. Like, we have the best technology in the world, and we live in a huge major metropolitan city where we're literally stepping over people, and yet we can't connect. So obviously the technology, this is not a technological problem, and it isn't just because we can't find people, they're there, but we don't have a method of, or a space where we can meet people. There's tons of singles events, and almost everyone who goes, they don't go again.
Well, and you know what our problem is, I believe, is we're stuck in this pattern of how we interact with people. So we sit down in front of someone and we automatically say the same things over and over. We have our little elevator pitch. This is me, this is Heidi, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And you say it so many times that it becomes empty, and there's just there's a lack of juice in it. We've kind of forgotten how to connect in spontaneous, unique ways. And that's exactly what this event is for. If you come to the event, there's no time to sit and give your elevator pitch. There's no time to even sit and chat. I'll be guiding you through a series of exercises, and each one is going to invite you to step out of your normal operating system, your pattern of connection, and connect in a really unique and fresh way. And you find that you can get sometimes to a 10th date level of getting to know the person in a few minutes, even a few seconds, just going to the essence of that person. If you really pause and look in someone's eyes and focus and just surrender all of your judgments and feel them, you get to know them pretty well, actually. You get a sense for who this person is. You get a sense if you're feeling magnetically pulled towards them or you're feeling magnetically pulled away from them. You get to explore their essence a little bit. And there's lots of other fun kind of tantric ways that we can determine compatibility. You'll find out that all of our chakras have a different resonance. We can tone at the level of one of our chakras. And when we tone with someone else, we can feel the kind of harmony that we create. Is it a beautiful song that harmonizes, or do we feel a little bit out of tune?
Very cool, very cool. So that is on March 29th. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about the tantric speed dating?
The tantric speed dating is a dating event. That's why I created it. Created it with a friend, actually, back in 2014. But I continually hear from people that they came for the dating, but at the end, it was irrelevant because they had such a good time. If they get a bonus match, if they get a match, it's just a bonus. It's a very heartwarming experience. It's a really heart-opening and enjoyable time. Lots of joy.
That's amazing, because I really feel now I'm getting a much clearer sense of what community means. So I think, in the first year of my business, I got sucked into this concept of social media community. and it's not really a community. Like, you need to meet people in person, you need to interact with them, you know, they need to see your facial expressions, they need to feel your energy. Like, that's the only way you can kind of connect with people. So really my focus this year for the events that we have is to somehow, you know, keep that community going. So, you know, everyone who comes to this event, you know, I really want to make sure that we have some way of kind of staying connected, and that, you know, if they want to learn more about Tantra, then there's that opportunity. Or if they just want to continue meeting these people as a group, like, we can still do stuff together, right? Just because this one workshop is over, they don't have to wait like another year for the next time you're in Toronto to stay connected. So
yeah, and I know that you've got lots of good ideas on how to do that.
yes, they're all ideas at the moment. But yeah, so hopefully we can figure out a way to keep you connected with the people in Toronto, and to keep the people in Toronto who are interested in Tantra connected, so that when we have kind of larger events, yeah, these people are still connected. So I don't think we'll have time to talk too much about the Tantra festival that you organize.
Oh, that's fine. I just want to say,
Sure.
I will hand out a feedback form at the Tantric Speed Dating. And, you know, for any of you that are there, if you have requests or suggestions on how to stay in touch with people, then please put it on the forum, and Leroy and I can brainstorm.
Yeah, that would be a great idea, actually. Yeah, and I was hoping that we could kind of get people who are interested to actually come onto a Zoom webinar. So it might be like, I don't know, 6 people, 7 people, something like that, just so that we could maybe do, mostly just to kind of introduce ourselves. But, you know, maybe if you had a couple of virtual activities, I know Tantra isn't, it's really something that you need to do in person, but you know, if we had maybe an activity or two that we could do leading up to the event, I thought that might be a cool way of kind of connecting people.
For that intro, because very important point that we didn't touch on is that you do not need a partner to practice Tantra. So classically, it was an individual practice. This partner Tantra is part of the new evolution. So not having a partner does in no way disqualify you from practicing Tantra. And certainly there are exercises that we can do in an online format where you can have that connection with yourself.
Awesome.
And sometimes it's nice to do it online, because you can be in the comfort of your own home.
Yes.
Right? You can like cuddle up in your jammies and put on your incense and your music.
Exactly. So what would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions? Like, so even though you've written a beautiful description of what to expect at this type of an event, I still feel people have strong misconceptions about what Tantra is and what a tantric speed dating might be. So do you want to maybe dispel some of the myths or misconceptions, or
It's amusing because this word Tantra conjures images of like the Kama Sutra, or, you know, some kind of like group sexual activity, and it's almost like overwhelming for people. And the reality couldn't be further from the truth. It's a very almost like childlike innocence that we connect to in the event. So there's no sexual touching, no nudity, like nothing like that. It's really, the tantric element is really speaking to the purity of sitting in front of another human being and experiencing them as a human and letting yourself be who you are. So there's, it's a very non-sexual event, and that's for sure. So sometimes, like I said, the word tantra can be associated with sexuality. That is probably the biggest myth to dispel for my workshops anyways.
Exactly. So I think that's so important for people to make sure that they have that kind of understanding, because there's so many. I was Googling Tantra events in Toronto, and I have to say, though, now that I think about it, almost all of the events that I saw seemed to be fairly high quality. Like, I don't know the people personally, but they seemed to be, you know, I don't know if authentic is the right word, but they seem to be, I don't know how to describe it, but the
holistic?
holistic, I guess, or respectful of the tradition, I guess. So, it's so easy now to kind of throw that word around and maybe even claim that you're a teacher. But I think people will, especially if they check out your page, will be able to kind of see your background and see that you've been doing this for a while. So, yeah,
Well, here's one more thing about the event, Leroy, and to share with everyone listening, is that one of the biggest pieces that I want to share with people is something called self-sovereignty. So this is something where whether you're in a class and the teacher tells you to do something, it's your own truth that you listen to, becoming your own teacher and your own inner guru. And so you'll have a chance in the tantric speed dating to actually come back to your own authority. And in any exercise, there's this beautiful opportunity to modify and tailor it according to what your truth is saying. So, if there's an exercise where you can hug someone, but for some reason that's not feeling like your truth in this moment, then we modify that. Or maybe you connect energetically, you have your hands facing each other, and you actually get to experience what an electrical current between hands feels like.
Wow.
Or maybe you get to connect at the level of the heart, and maybe you touch your partner's heart and you actually slow down and feel their heartbeat, and you might even notice there's a little electrical charge there. But are beautiful ways that we experience what our soul is wanting in the moment. And so when you're anytime you're in a workshop with me, there's always this flexibility. And I've had beautiful openings come from someone who is brave enough to say, that doesn't feel like my truth right now. So we try something else, and they have a connection that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
It's amazing.
So it's really you having the chance to step into your own sovereignty and authority and doing what feels good for you.
Awesome. So I guess kind of the themes of the tantric speed dating are very similar to the format is obviously a bit different, but the full day workshop that you're going to be doing on the following Sunday. So the tantric speed dating is on a Friday, and then on the Sunday you have a Tantra 101, and that's open to both couples and individuals.
Yes. So this is a deeper dive into what it is to practice Tantra. So we will, again, go over the concept of sovereignty. You'll get to go deeper into what this means. And this is a game changer. This will change everything, because it's amazing how many things we do in the day that we don't want to do, that we're doing because of a social pressure, or feeling like the world's going to end if I don't do this. Maybe you don't want to hug someone, but you hug them anyways. And there's things that happen actually to our body, our energy body and our physical body, if we continually do that. So we'll learn about that. And lots of time on polarity, actually. So you'll see practical ways on how masculine and feminine energy are like these tools that you have in your tool belt, and you can pull the tool that's appropriate out in every moment. In a business meeting, you can gauge, is this the time for me to access my masculine energy? And what is masculine energy? I mean, that's such a big question. So we'll go into this deep dive on what is masculine energy, what is feminine energy, and there's so much more than what it means to be a man or a woman. Almost like coming into a superpower once you really get a sense of this, and the breadth of your own capabilities. Such a breadth that we can access. And it has a lot of implications in relationships as well. So I'll teach some secrets to sexual polarity and how that can make or break a relationship. And then we'll go into the chakras. The chakras are something that can be very, a lot of us have heard about chakras, some of us haven't. But in this workshop, I will teach ways that they become tangible. So ways that instead of them being this kind of far off thing that you've seen on a color flag somewhere, but in your day, you're actually experiencing, this is a moment where I'm connected to my first chakra. And it has a different quality. It's a whole different way of being on that chakra. So we'll take a little deep dive into the chakra system. and a bunch of other surprises.
Awesome.
But again, it's not again, we will talk about sexual energy because it's very important, but there won't be any nudity. We won't be doing like tantra massage, you might have heard of, nothing like that. Which, and by the way, I think these are beautiful modalities. Anything that's helping us step outside of our conditioning and sexuality is helpful. But I had to choose what my specialty was going to be. And I chose this direction.
It's amazing. All right. Well, I know you have some busy things to do out there in India. So thank you for taking some time to introduce yourself and to talk about the events that are coming up. Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we wrapped up?
Just again, the dates maybe. Friday the 29th is Tantric Speed Dating, and Tantra 101 is on the 31st from 10 a.m. to 4:30. So you're welcome to come to one or both. And the Tantra 101 is specifically designed for both couples and individuals. So either way, you're welcome to come.
Great. Well, I'm so glad that we had this opportunity to chat and for you to talk again, I guess, because I think we did a Facebook Live the first time you did the speed dating here in Toronto. So people got to reconnect with you. Yeah, reconnect with you. And for those who didn't, they got a chance for a little bit of an introduction. So that's great. Heidi and I are going to be planning some, like I said, we haven't finalized that yet, but maybe some opportunities for people to connect through Zoom like this, like virtually, but actually have conversations. So it wouldn't be, just a lecture or something like that. Like people would actually have a chance, not just to talk to Heidi, but to talk to other people who are interested in Tantra and maybe finding some other like-minded people. And then when you actually get to the speed dating event, you'll actually have recognized some of these people and it won't be maybe so awkward. So that's great. All right, so Heidi, if you want to hang on the line, I will close off our Facebook Live. So thanks to everyone who joined us today, Benoit, Michael, Simon, and Maria. And this video will obviously be available in the replay. So if you have any questions or comments, you can still leave them and I'll try and answer them after this Facebook Live is finished. And all of the, go ahead.
We'll put my email in the comments as well if any of you have questions directly for me.
Oh, great. Wow.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
And I'm also grateful. Thank you for joining, everyone. And thank you, Leroy, for organizing this.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Chat with you as always.
Awesome. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us. And you'll be seeing Heidi very soon. So stay tuned. Bye for now.